Welcome, everybody, to Den Excelsior, the mostly Marvel podcast. I'm your host, Ricky. With me is Dennis.
Happy Franksgiving.
Happy Franksgiving. Is it our first Thanksgiving show?
I think it is. I think we don't
Four
normally
years
do this.
down the line, and we finally were working on the holidays.
Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, I don't think we've ever worked on a holiday outside of this. Outside of that, cool. We did it. That's how much Thanksgiving means to us. We'd rather be talking about the Punisher.
Yes, we're rounding out our Punisher, our cinematic Punisher journey. We watched the Punisher Warzone. What is it? 2011 Punisher War?
The divisive Punisher Warzone. Yes,
Divisive Punisher Warzone.
Not a highly rated movie, for sure.
2008's Punisher Warzone.
I don't know I don't know when the date of this piece of trivia was, but supposedly it is the lowest grossing Marvel movie of all time. That's pretty sad.
But it still made money.
I mean, sure, it makes money, but like, let's just put some context on it. But I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about this more. 2008. That's kind of our line, right? That's the line.
Yeah, that's where
the game changed.
Before Christ moment.
Yeah, it is. As far as like, I know a lot of people, will give credit to like Blade and Spider-Man and X-Men, and yes, those are excellent movies. All of them are really fun to watch and everything. I'm not gonna say all the X-Men movies or Blade movies are excellent, but it's a great period, right? But like, if that's like the golden age,
exponentially everything post 2008 is just a better movie.
Yeah, the second Iron Man and Dark Knight are dropped in the same year, it's just over. It's over for like the way people perceive superhero movies from then on, right? Like, they're actually something to be reckoned with, to the point where now, like, it's an expectation which superhero movies are coming out this year, right? Like, you would lose your shit, right, if a superhero movie wasn't coming out this year or next year.
Well, it happened like a year ago. It sucked.
Last year?
Was it last year or 2 years ago?
I don't think we had a year without a superhero movie.
Oh, without a, yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's an anomaly at this point, right? So I think it's crazy to know that 2008 gave us two of the highest peaks, and then also gave us the Incredible Hulk and Punisher Warzone. That's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. But yeah, we'll talk more about that later. It's pretty fun.
What have you been nerding out on the past couple days?
I watched what I believe is the penultimate episode of Superman and Lois yesterday.
People seem to be loving that. That's a cool looking Doomsday.
It is the best looking Doomsday. I was geeking out on it because, like, they did a couple things. I think I mentioned it last week or 2 weeks ago. They did something really clever. Like, I know we've talked about this before. Steel is on the show, right? Like, yeah. Steel is pretty much the only other superhero that exists in this Superman universe, in Superman and Lois on CW. And I've always thought he just looked like the most bootleg Steel ever. No, not ever. Sorry, Shaquille O'Neal gets the most bootleg Steel ever. But I just felt like it's not that hard to do a proper Steel suit. And yet somehow this one that we got 4 years or 3 years ago in Superman and Lois was still not very good. And man, they changed my life.
They put him in the cape or what?
No, man. They let Lex Luthor steal the suit, and he's repurposing it.
Is that the power suit?
Yeah, guess what? It might have been the most terrible Steel suit, but it is a pretty damn awesome Lex suit. And I'm like,
it the right color?
Not yet. And that's the only thing I'm waiting for. But they did make it, because like how every movie where a character's in an armored suit now has the Tony Stark camera.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Robert Downey Jr. camera. Like, everybody has it, the HUD with the HUD and stuff like that. They made Lex's HUD green and purple. Like it's just very green and purple. Like it's
Suit's not green
extreme.
purple.
Not yet. And so, but like I'm at the point now where I'm like,
Mm,
maybe I shouldn't doubt you guys, because they also just gave us the final form of Doomsday this week, and he is the most comic accurate Doomsday I've ever seen put to screen. It is amazing looking, and it's CW, man. Like, so I was kind of shocked, but like, yeah, my wife was looking at it and she's like, I think they used AI to make that because it looks way too good. It looks too good. Like you couldn't pay people enough to do the texturing on that, and I could be wrong. So, let us know in the comments what you think of the Doomsday in Superman and Lois, season 4, episode 9. I was giddy. I was actually like, wow, this is impressive. So I'm holding out hope for Lex.
I will say, it's tangent, not tangent. You've been to Magic Mountain, right?
Yeah.
They have like little DC area.
Mm-hmm.
The Lex Luthor ride that they have when you go in, and the suit's there, and I'm like, man, that's a good looking suit. And it's crazy that we've not gotten like weird. I feel like we haven't gotten weird DC. Well, I guess the Flash are kind of weird.
Well, that's kind of the problem we're having with DC in the movies, is like, other than Suicide Squad, we
Put
don't
them in the
dare
dumb suits.
we don't dare to go weird. You know what I mean? Like it's because they built, like, Chris Nolan built an expectation that these characters should be grounded in reality. So when they went and made Man of Steel, it still was somehow trying to be grounded in reality, and it's a Superman story, and that was just. And then they built the entire Justice League off the back of that movie. So everything was just trying to be gritty and real and like,
give me Batmite. What's the guy with the bowler hat?
Mr. Mixes Pitlick.
Yeah, whatever he does, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Bring him in. We're getting the dog.
I want all the weird. Yeah, for sure. I agree. 100%. I agree. But I am holding out hope.
Is Lex still a bad guy? Like, is he like, hey, Superman, we have to fight Doomsday now? Or is it like,
oh no,
fight each other?
No, Doomsday was sicked onto Superman by Lex.
Oh,
he's absolutely a bad guy in this story, and it's awesome. Like I think I told you last week, he finally shaved.
Yeah.
And he shaved and he put on the suit, and I'm like, I thought they were just dicking with us with this Duck Dynasty character the whole season. And then so now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be
old though.
I'm gonna be patient, and I'm gonna give them next week, I believe, is the finale of that show. Am I gonna get the green and purple suit? Because that would be.
He has fantastic. A logo, right, too, on his chest.
It's like an L. It's like a big. It's like a purple. It's the same logo he has on all his buildings. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, I think he does. I could be wrong. It depends on the artist too. But that is what I geeked out on the most just yesterday. Is I was so happy to watch that show. It's so good. It's I'm gonna be super sad next week when it's gone forever. Highly recommend. Don't even watch any of the other CW shows. You don't even need it, man. Just like I like, because that's the thing, is at the end of the day, Superman and Lois knew when to dip out before they got bad.
Yeah, they set their own terms.
They set their terms, and like, it might be sad because people love the show so much, but that show is going out on a high note, and I cannot say the same about the Arrow show or the Flash or Supergirl or Black Lightning. They all did not go out on highs, man. And
is that to me? Is Doomsday like a Thanos apocalypse? Not apocalypse. Thanos dark side. Are they on the same plane in terms of villainy?
No, but like, Doomsday is like the Bane to Superman in the way that Bane is Bane to the Batman. You know what I mean? I'm using the word both meanings. He's like that. You know what I mean? He's the guy. He's not necessarily Batman's Superman's greatest villain, but he is the one that kills him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he is like, he's kind of like the Juggernaut to the X-Men. You know what I mean? You just can't stop this guy. It's a relentless, attack is what it is. So I don't know. He's just a very iconic Superman villain because, he did something. That character showed up and revitalized the Superman, like fandom in the comics. Like, because before Doomsday, those comics were stale, man. They had been just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then suddenly,
Well, that's the whole death of Superman. So that is the Doomsday
right?
story. Right? Okay.
Yes, he shows up, kills Superman, revitalizes that whole brand. It's a media like frenzy. Like, I remember growing up as a kid, and suddenly these things that I thought were just, the stuff we were reading, like our kids were reading, is on the news. Like, it was all over the news everywhere. Like Saturday Night Live did a skit on it, like that weekend when Superman died, and the host was Sinbad. It's a hilarious skit where they're all at the funeral of Superman, and Lois is played by Julia Sweeney, and she's just over there crying as everybody comes to say, their condolences to Lois because they know she's a friend of Superman. And the whole time she's like, I just don't know where Clark is. And it just plays for a good joke the whole time, like stupid. Just like, it's funny. But yeah, no, that's how big it was on, in the world of American news back then. And then after that, like, everybody wanted to know what the continuing adventures of Superman were and stuff. So Doomsday is a really, really important part of his legacy, just because, like, he put the stamp on that new era of Superman comics. And so I think that's why a lot of fans, like people, my age, growing up watching these shows right now or consuming these movies, they really have a soft spot for Doomsday because he is a new creation that occurred during their time period. I mean, because
He does look cool though.
yeah, because like Superman's like old, right? Like, he's from the 30s. He's from the 30s, man. So like, it's cool whenever we get a character that resonates with our generation, like that's like, Bane was a big deal for Batman because he appeared in that time period.
Supergirl doesn't exist in this universe, right?
No, so like, this is a post-Crisis on Infinite Earths universe. The show Superman and Lois.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result of it, for some reason, they created their own new universe where it's just them. And Steel.
But it's not the same.
It's the same actors who played Superman and Lois, but it's not necessarily. It's not that it's not. It could be the same them. It's just their reality got altered, so they wouldn't even, remember.
No. Mm-hmm.
It could be, but it doesn't have to be the same them. That's what I mean. But it's awesome. Like, that's why I'm saying you don't have to watch anything before it, because the moment that show starts, it doesn't care whether or not you watch any Superman content before. You will get the full Superman experience if you watch 4 seasons of that show. It's pretty awesome. Minus him joining a Justice League. You won't get that. Sorry.
You never know.
No, I do know. That is not happening next week. Okay, that would be the dumb. If we come back next week and I'm super pissed off and I'm like, God damn it, they just crammed a Justice League in the last 5 minutes of this show. No, I'll be upset. I'll be upset. So.
Well,
what about you? What have you been geeking out on?
I celebrated. What do we call it? Not Gladican. Gladic. I saw Gladiator 2.
Okay.
But funny enough, the day before I watched Gladiator 1. So I saw Gladiator 2 on Saturday, saw Gladiator 1 on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I did not remember that movie at all.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie. It's more violent than I thought, which makes it even wilder that like my parents took me to go see it at that age.
It like had like 13 Oscar nominations, didn't it?
Probably, yeah. The one thing that stood out though, and I challenge you to do it if you have the time. the score for Gladiator 1 is the exact same as Pirates of the Caribbean. Like they do like the pirates like dun, 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 like throughout the whole movie. And I didn't know what it was till after the movie. I'm like, that's the pirate's name. And now I can't like unwatch this movie.
But Pirates came after Gladiator, though.
Exactly. Well, I guess Pirates stole the Gladiator theme.
Well,
I think they're both technically Hans Zimmer too, which
I mean, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that Ricky's views are not the views of everyone on the show. In case for legal reasons, you have to come at him. Those are his.
they're separate entities.
Yeah, separate.
But Gladiator 2. It's more of a direct sequel to Gladiator 1. Shocker. And they loop it back in a nice way. I thought Pedro was great. I thought Denzel was great. I don't get the beef. Is it the most historically accurate movie? Probably not. But it's entertaining as hell. So
I heard Denzel's character is actually a real historical character that existed in that time period. So
I believe if you told me.
Cool.
But it's cool. Do you think Ridley Scott's a good director?
I think okay. I'm just gonna say yes. He, as a general, looking at the body of Ridley Scott's work, yes, of course, Ridley Scott is a great director. Okay, should Ridley Scott have probably stopped maybe 10, 12 years ago? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have not been impressed with anything he's done since Prometheus.
So you do like Prometheus?
No, I'm saying that was when I was like, wow, I'm not.
That's the cutoff.
I'm not impressed with
prior
you
to
anymore.
Prometheus.
Yeah.
What was the last thing prior to Prometheus?
I don't remember, but I mean, Gladiator was an excellent movie. I love that movie. I am scared to watch Gladiator 2 because I've heard things that make me think maybe I won't enjoy it the way I enjoyed the first one. But
I think if you like the first one, you'll probably like this. Like they're almost the exact same movie without.
That's kind of the problem. That's the problem. Do you need, like, does Gladiator, the story of Maximus, need a sequel? That's what I'm saying. Like, does it need a sequel? No. The answer is no. Yeah, thank you. You said probably not. That's good enough.
The timing, the gap in timing between the two movies, I'll say, does play a factor.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if the point of that movie is the story of Maximus, and we see him fall, then rise, and then ultimately earn his a version of freedom, like, why do I need more of that story? Do you know what I mean?
It's so more Maximus's story, though.
What?
It's a continuation of Maximus's story.
Yeah, but that's not what I asked you. I know that it's a continuation. I'm saying, why do I need more of that story?
Because Gladiator movies are cool. Like,
okay, fair enough. I think you're leading me right into the topic I want to discuss in the news. So if you want to get to the news.
All right. Take it away.
Oh man, you're gonna let me do it, huh? It's news is usually yours, but Ricky, before the show, you were like, "I don't got no news," and I'm like, "Really?" I think we have at least one thing that's really cool. I think a lot of Hollywood, news or entertainment sites have been picking up this story, and it's pretty interesting. And obviously, it's potentially gonna change the numbers around in a little bit, with Wicked dominating in the box office right now. But the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024 currently are all sequels. That is the first time in recorded history. And just to be clear, that, it just means that they're movies that are continuations of, another story that's happened so far. So we got number one movie in America right now, or this year, or in the world. Is it the world or America?
This list.
I think it's
believe
this.
the
I think
world.
it's in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number one is Inside Out 2. Number 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Number 3 is Despicable Me 4. Dune Part 2 is number 4. Godzilla X Kong is 5. Kung Fu Panda 4, 6. Beetlejuice 7. I had no idea Beetlejuice made that much money. Venom: The Last Dance is an 8. Bad Boys Ride or Die 9, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes 10. Obviously, Wicked's going to beat at least a few of these by the end of the year. Wicked, you could still make the argument, though, is a continuation of the Wizard of Oz story or a prequel, whatever. Is it directly after the Wizard of Oz? No. So, but still, I just think it's kind of interesting that, well, that's what a prequel is, Ricky. Oh. I just think it's interesting that we're at that point right now in history of cinema that the original content is not what the people want. Because make no mistake, I'm not saying that the top 10 best movies of the year are all sequels. I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend that I would even know what the top 10 best movies of the year should be, or criticize. I don't go to the movies enough right now. I just watch a lot of stuff when it's at home. I do understand this list though, because I go to the movies when I want a spectacle, right? And like anything else, I'm going to sit at home and wait for it to stream. And I think that's an important distinction to make here, is like, what am I willing to pay for? And I think that's what's happening to a lot of people, a lot of audiences right now, is they want something that is a safe bet for their money. And also the studios want to make things that are safe bets, for their investment. And so I don't know. I feel like that's what's happening right now. How do you feel about that?
I think the basic premise of that argument is sound, but I challenge that it needs to be sequels. Like I will go see every Christopher Nolan movie that comes out till the day I die. Like I think that's expected of himself, and he does typically original. Yeah. But that to be fair on the flip side of that coin, if it's a sequel, I inherently care less about who's directing it.
Correct. But I don't think there's a premise to like the actual thing happening here, which is it just so happens that the top 10 movies are sequels, because I don't think it just so happens. I think what I'm saying is what we're seeing right now is the studios believe that they need to be investing in this, and the audiences are actually validating that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that a Chris Nolan movie wouldn't do gangbusters because he has a built-in audience. I am saying there's not a Chris Nolan movie out right now, this year. So I like but that says something too, right? I mean, aside from the fact that it takes Chris Nolan X amount of time to create a movie, so he's not necessarily going to have one every year. So if the studios know that, because believe me, the studios are willing to put money into Chris Nolan, right? Because of fans like you or I, we all know we're going to go see his movies. There's a handful of directors or actors that can just do something new, and we'll go watch it because we just like that, right? I don't think Red One is that thing this year. But you know what I mean? Like, so it's not to say that, but if there happens to be a weird overlap where hey, Chris Nolan isn't going to have anything available for 2024. Maybe this other director's not either. This actor's not. Okay, well, if we know that and we're planning our schedules, what can we do to juice the numbers, right? And I think it just so happens that we have this confluence of this year was like a ton of sequels.
I think Red One's an interesting. It lives on the same side of the Venn diagram as the Nolan piece because it's a Rock movie. It's a movie with the Rock, right?
Well, that's what I meant. I meant.
The bigger question is the Rock as bankable of a star now than he was a couple years ago? Probably not.
Well,
Counterpoint, though, there is also a Rock sequel movie coming out today or yesterday.
Moana 2,
that will probably do a lot of money. So
it might not. It's not getting great reviews. Apparently, it was a Disney Plus show first.
Yes, it was a show
that was retrofitted to be a movie. And I learned yesterday that they didn't even hire the same people to make the music for this one. And I'm like, what?
Well,
what?
Yeah, that's a big part of that secret sauce.
That's kind of the biggest part of that secret sauce. Like I was offended when I learned that. I was like, wait, so Lin-Manuel's not here? The Lopez's aren't here? What's going on here? Like it's so I'm already not gonna see that movie. Period. Like you should have just put it on Disney Plus because I would have happily watched it. But yeah. I just think it's interesting that like we're at that point right now in movies where we are finding lots of reasons to not go see the movies. You know what I mean? And I think it comes down to I need to have a few bankable reasons to go watch a movie nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that lends itself to the argument, or not the argument, but like the occurrence that we're seeing right now is that like, hey, these are known quantities. Don't you want to come hang out with these known quantities, right? And and the audience has said, hell yeah, we do, because I'll take a new Beetlejuice movie any day, like over Red One or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just what's happening right now. And so yeah, it's a little sad because that's the state of the industry right now, is that like the big studios are.
It's not just the movie thing either. I feel like it's been going in like gaming for a minute.
Oh, gaming's been doing it for a long time for sure. They definitely like gaming is more dictated by marketing deadlines than by the content of the game itself. I know that from experience. Like that's working in the games industry. Like marketing would dictate when your game is coming out, and everything else would follow. So the coders would be like, okay, I guess we're gonna do it this way then, you know, like because that's what they have to, the time they have to work with and stuff like that. So it's weird. It's weird that we're seeing that with Hollywood now too, because like I actually saw a really interesting interview with James Gunn a couple days ago, just talking about the state of the industry. I think he was more specifically referring to like superhero movies, but I think in general he was also speaking just the way movies are being made nowadays. And he was saying, like, you know, when he got his start in Hollywood, you know, his first big script that broke was Scooby-Doo. And he was like, you know, you can like or hate this movie all you want, but at the end of the day, the reason that movie got greenlit was because people liked the script. And he's saying it's just fundamentally different nowadays because studios are, you know, they're locking themselves in to specific time frames that movies have to get made and released. And what you end up with is directors who are stuck directing a movie that doesn't even have a third act written. You know what I mean? And I mean, that is not a cheap shot either. There are a ton of Marvel and DC movies that I have sat here on this show and said that movie fell apart in the third act. You know what I mean? And like, so I believe him. I believe he's right about this, is that the way studios are running these movies nowadays, it's not the same anymore. And it's because I believe, because, you know, they think they know what the audiences want. And I can't say that they're wrong if the top 10 movies are.
It's that movies, like everything else, is just tremendously more expensive these days to make. And they take longer too. So it's just to dumb it down, it's literally probably like a line on a spreadsheet. Like, if your movie costs this much, it's going to take this long to make, and you need to make this much back. Does a new thing make sense, or does, you know, Avengers 5 make more? You know, it's just simple. The math is simple, and I will take Avengers 5 every day. And that math will keep working until it doesn't, right? Like, eventually it's gonna stop. Our superhero sequel renaissance will end at some point. But is that anytime soon? Probably not.
Not anytime soon. No. I feel like this planet's going to end before that happens.
Has every movie that you went to the theaters in this year, has it been a sequel? Yes. I'm pretty sure that. But I also knew that going into the year, because when 2024 started, I read an article about, hey, look at all the freaking sequels that are coming out this year. And so I looked through the list and I was like, well, that's really gross. I'll probably see like 3 or 4 of them, you know? So I called this. My list is not better. I saw one, but that's it. So,
what was your non-sequel?
Long Legs. I went to go see Long Legs in the theater.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I was tempted to see Terrifier 3 again, a sequel. Like, I was very tempted. Very tempted. I was also tempted to see Smile 2. Really, really tempted. And I'm not in any way, by the way, saying that these are bad movies. A movie is not inherently bad for being a sequel. It's just saying a lot about the movie industry right now, that the top 10 highest grossing movies this year are sequels. That's all I'm saying. Feel free to add your bit in the comments if you want.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's layers. Like,
there are layers.
Deeper, like Wicked. Right, Wicked's a musical movie. It's a sequel, right, or a prequel,
whatever
in
you
your
want to call it.
sense.
Yeah.
They take it even a step further, and in the leads are not. Well, I guess one of the leads is a musician, not like a Broadway actor, which is fine.
She's theater trained, though. She's theater trained.
But she comes in with her own set of like fandom. You know what I mean? Like, you already have a built-in audience for this movie. Just
that's what I'm saying. That's why it's a sequel in the same sense, is that the studio is banking on the built-in audiences that are happening in these things. You have it's a cross section of Ariana Grande fans, musical theater fans, and freaking Wizard of Oz fans. You know what I mean?
Those are Wizard of Oz fans in 2024.
Really?
I don't like the Wizard of Oz movie.
That movie is iconic. That movie is iconic, dude.
Is it good though?
Yes, it's a great movie. It's an excellent movie. Also, some guy hanged himself in the background.
Oh my god, yes. Oh god.
Okay, I don't mean to make that into a joke. That's just a factual thing that you can see in certain versions.
Julie Garth. What are Judy? The start of her downfall in that movie.
Was it? Probably. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak on the historical, followings of something that occurred like way before I was born. I'm not. No. But anyways, that was my rant and ramble on that bit of news. If you want to, we can pivot to a more peculiar piece of Hollywood movie industry. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Punisher Warzone, 2008's Punisher Warzone, starring Ray Stevenson as Frank Castle.
Dominic West as Jigsaw.
Wayne Knight, right?
Yep. Wayne Knight is Microchip. Yeah.
Not a sequel, but it's not an original Punisher story. I just feel like it's just a Punisher one shot.
It takes from a lot of different Punisher comic books from like I think volume 6 of Punisher, but it is actually kind of a sequel. This was the movie that was meant to be Thomas Jane's sequel to the one that we watched last week, the 2004 Punisher. But what's funny is, from what I've read, is he felt it was, when he read the script, he thought it was going in the wrong direction. He felt it was too comic book, and he wanted a more gritty, realistic approach, which is funny because we talked about it last week, but if you go and watch Dirty Laundry, which came out 4 years after Warzone, he basically just does the massive violence that Ray Stevenson does, and you know what I mean, like, which is really funny. But I think this was meant to be a sequel, and it got rewritten when Thomas Jane dipped out of this movie. But you can see the bones of it still being a sequel, because they even allude to, they don't give you the origin story in this one, right? They tell you, hey, he's been doing this for 4 years, right? And now he's here in New York, and he's taken on, you know, I don't remember the name of the family that he's taking on. Like, is it the Carbonis? I don't know. He kills a whole lot of mob people at the beginning of the movie, and then he does the one thing that really kind of sets a cool tone for me watching this movie. He accidentally kills an undercover agent, and we talked about this, I think, briefly last week, because I started getting ahead of myself, and I was saying how it has the bones of a really good story here, kind of in the way that you were down for the Blade Trinity movie, right? At the beginning, like, you thought that was a good start to a movie, is, ooh, what happens when the hero kills an innocent person? You know, like, it's, and I think this one dealt with it a little better than Blade Trinity. But the reason I was mentioning this is a peculiar piece of movie cinema, like, or a movie industry cinema, is this movie's bonkers that it got made, and it's so weird. Like, it's so weird until you start reading about it. Like, they need to do a documentary on how this movie got made, because it's so much of it. Like, I mean, this is your first time watching this movie, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of this movie?
It reminded me of the game that I played in 2004, the Punisher game. It's just like uber violent, in silly ways.
Yeah,
not like in grotesque ways, but just silly shit happens, and
like cartoon violence, right?
Yeah, it's straight up cartoon comic book violence. Is it like the most elaborate Punisher story? No, like the setup with him killing the cop was a nice foil, right? Because ideally, no one can stop the Punisher. Like that's his whole thing. He's just this unstoppable, crazy man force. But when you throw a dead cop in there, it's like, okay, now he has this moral weight on him.
Yeah,
but I liked it. I think it's. Do I like it more than Thomas Jane's Punisher? I don't think I do. But that doesn't mean this is a bad Punisher. Like, I don't. It's just another flavor.
So here's what's weird to me. Like, when I watched this movie in theaters, because I did watch it in theaters, like, because I was like riding a high of like, what? We had Iron Man and Dark Knight this year. Of course, I'm gonna go see this Punisher movie, even if it doesn't look great and it was poorly marketed.
Is this the worst superhero movie that came out that year?
Yeah, at the time I thought so, but I think in retrospect, I think The Incredible Hulk was probably, unless there's probably like a worse movie that came out that I can't even think of right now. But as far as Marvel movies go, like, I think history is in my eyes is being kind to Punisher Warzone, because I had a lot more fun watching it this time around than I did back then, because I had some different mindset going in, which was like, oh God, I remember how much I hate Jigsaw and his brother in this movie. And you know what? The more and more I watch this movie, the more I realize they're the actual only two things I dislike about this movie.
Really? Like their acting, or just their appearance, or
their acting is bad. Just the direct.
I thought they were silly. I thought that it turned Dick Tracy. It went to Dick Tracy in terms of.
Yes, exactly. And so what I'm saying is, watching this movie, it's cringe when you're watching
Jim. I don't know. Can say that? Is that?
No, you can't say that. You shouldn't have said that. LBJ.
Lyndon B. Johnson.
I do think there was another interesting take on like what those characters were doing, right? Is like they were these horrible villains that like managed to get government immunity because of like basically the Patriot Act was protecting them, right? Like they were using they were using New York's vulnerability to terrorism in that period of time they leveraged that into like, making a deal with the government because they turned over people that were trafficking like weapons of mass destruction. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that you don't see much in superhero movies or comic book movies. I should clarify. I know people like to correct me in the comments and say Punisher's not a superhero. I get that. I'm using superhero in the term like, interchangeably with comic book movies. But I thought that was an interesting thing to have in this movie, and I kind of applauded it for it because it was, again, trying to ground it in a real world, right? It's like, yeah, New York's pretty freaking sensitive for good reason to terrorist attacks, right? And so that's cool that's an element of your plot that's letting these bad guys get away with murder, literally. But I do think the execution of the scenes, like with those characters, is just terrible. I can't stand listening to them talk. I can't stand looking at them. And I think that
he looks like Jigsaw.
He looks like a person that could be called Jigsaw. I don't think I don't think there's one way to look like Jigsaw. And I think if you go watch the Netflix Jigsaw, he's amazing. He looks really good. You know what I mean? And he's serious and he takes it in a serious way. Like, I just can't stand the march they're doing down the streets to go recruit. And they're doing like, it's almost like a cartoon march down the streets. And I can't with it. It's so crazy. But I will say this, like, going back and reading, like, and learning about stuff, I probably had learned about it before, but I'd forgotten. There's context that changes this movie for me and lets me forgive it for that kind of stuff. So I guess Lexi Alexander, the director of the movie, the day she was meant to meet with the Marvel execs to discuss the movie, it just happened to be the day after a Virginia Tech massacre. I don't know if you remember that shooting.
I remember that.
But basically, she watched, feature footage of the shooter's room, and in which the Punisher poster was prominently displayed. Like, it was on the news, basically. They're looking at the shooter's room, and there's a Punisher logo up there. And I kind of say, like, I think we'd said it before, but, like, I think this movie marks the moment where that character started being co-opted in a weird way. You know what I mean? Like, that makes us even cautious about doing a Punisher episode of our podcast, right? Because you can just feel it. The tone is a little different. And she was trying to combat that by actually, as soon as she learned about this, she asked to reschedule the meeting, and she decided her new angle for this movie was to exaggerate the violence so that viewers would not attempt to recreate the scenes. So she actually, as a response to real world incidents, cartooned up that movie. And does the movie hurt for it? I think it does. Honestly.
I don't think so. I don't mind the cartoonist, if I'm being honest.
I can't handle that there's an entire gang of parkour guys, and all for the purpose of one of them jumping through the
Irish parkour guys.
I know, getting shot with a rocket launcher in mid parkour. It's a bit much, the cartooniness. Like, and so I'm not saying I didn't like the violence. The violence is super fun, dude. Like, I'd say my top two scenes in that entire movie is one, Punisher punches a guy in the face so hard his fist goes into the guy's face.
Yes.
That is an amazing effect. It looked awesome. And yeah, my wife Lindsay watching that just said, "Oh my God, how do fans not just geek out over this movie? I just watched a guy get punched so hard in the face that the dude's face caved in." And it's pretty amazing scene. The other one I really love is in that same scene, he blows a dude's whole face off with a shotgun. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But like, I think the other big, really cool moment for me, my second favorite moment of the whole movie, is when Jigsaw presents Frank with this choice, right? He has to choose to save the kid,
microchip, or
the wife and the kid, or microchip, right? And he has one bullet left. I don't know why you would ever give a loaded gun to the Punisher. Bad idea, bro. And so the Punisher chooses the third option. He shoots LBJ, and then but the thing that happens right afterwards, I love it because it's so raw. Is the second LBJ dies, Jigsaw sees his brother dead, and boom, pulls the trigger and kills Microchip. And I just think that's a really cool thing that you won't see in a normal comic book story, right? You literally watch the guy in the chair just get brutally murdered. Like, and yeah, you're right. It does remind me of the video games a lot. Like, it's just constant brutal murder through the whole movie. And I actually really do enjoy that. It's fun, but I felt like the thing to your point earlier, is it better than Thomas Jane's? No, because Thomas Jane made me feel, right? He made me feel for that character.
For as much as we shit on that movie for the backstory and the exposition and just
The 30 minutes, the 30 minutes, yeah, of like build up to
when Punisher starts doing Punisher things, I think it has more weight story wise.
It does.
Whereas this is just it's gratuitous. Like,
it's gratuitous.
At the end, when after they recruited all those people, the Punisher starts punishing. I really did like the scene where he busts the gun through the door, right?
And shoots the grenade launcher.
That's
my number 3 scene. Right.
And this is like call it whatever you want, but like as I'm watching on that, I'm like, man, Punisher is killing like a lot of minorities right now.
Not just minorities, he killed all the criminals basically in New York. You know, like, and what's the funniest thing about that to me is like that's the premise of like that's the plan that Jigsaw and LBJ have is we're gonna go and tell everybody that if we all work together, we can finally beat the Punisher. And I'm just laughing my head off thinking about the people who have like logical brains who are hearing this guy come up and say like, hey, you want to go help me kill the Punisher? And they're like, no, I'm good. I think that's the Punisher. Good luck to you. Have fun. And that's what's so funny about that setup is it's like you then proceed to watch pretty much, I don't know, I'm going to guess like 80% of all the criminal elements in that part of town, at least, get just murdered. Just like, I do appreciate the amount of fodder that they set up for the final, fight for the big climax of that movie. It is so many dead criminals. But yes, probably a lot of them are brown and other ethnicities and stuff. And not a great look, and probably another reason this character gets co-opted in weird, awkward ways that we don't condone. But I think the thing that I will say about this movie that makes me feel weird is, you're right. It carries more weight in the Thomas Jane one, but god damn, if Ray Stevenson wasn't the best looking Punisher.
I don't like the way he looks.
Whoa.
And
he does the hair, though. He does the hair.
I think it's, for me, as superficial as I don't think he has the right Punisher face.
Really? I think he has the perfect Punisher face.
It's the face is not matching the body, or the body's not matching the face.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is. To me, something's just off there. Do I like the suit? Yes. Do I wish they would have made the skull a little bit more white? Yes. As we talked about earlier, I understand why they probably didn't do that? 100%. I just don't like Ray Stevenson's. His actions are different. I did find his punishing fine, but
R.I.P. sir. Ricky doesn't like your face.
I'm all about silhouettes, and when I look at him, this is not a Punisher silhouette for me.
Wow, I think it's so much more of a Punisher face than Thomas Jane ever was. I love it. I love the way he looks. It's wild. He doesn't say a word for the first 25 minutes of that movie. Isn't that awesome? Like, he's that
punishing.
Yeah, he's just punishing. Like, there are things that I can't help but just love about this movie. And I think seeing the end of this movie when he finally he's guilt-ridden. I see it in his face. He wants to punish, and he feels really, really bad about killing an undercover agent, right? He goes out of his way to stop punishing for a little while, to go give money to the family. And he's even like talking about hanging it up, right? He's gonna leave. He wants to leave to get out of town, and then Microchip's like, hey, Rosati's still alive. He's like, all right, last one, last one.
Son of a bitch.
You got me. I'm in. And so, but I think it's interesting. Like there could have been way more weight to all of the stuff that was happening. I think the plot is actually pretty solid for this movie. Mm-hmm. I just think the execution is a little wobbly, but I do understand now that, like, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do understand that creatively they were stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? They needed to make a Punisher sequel or new movie, but there's some horrible shit going down in America.
Just to clarify, they needed to make a movie. As part of those rights,
retain the rights.
They have to make a movie every couple of years to keep the rights.
Correct.
And that was Universal, right?
Lionsgate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But hey, look at the result now, right? Like, obviously, after this movie did not meet expectations financially, and then just a weird situation around the Punisher, in the zeitgeist, those rights got reverted back to Marvel, and we had a really cool Punisher now back in the MCU.
Make no mistake, Jon Bernthal, best Punisher, absolutely. But I will say that, like, despite the really negative like rating and stuff that this movie got, I kind of loved it. Like, I loved it this time around watching it because I really did dig I saw what they saw when they cast Ray Stevenson in this role. I understood it. I was like, you know what? He is really good. Like, if you look at that poster, that movie poster,
mm-hmm.
He looks beautiful, like, as the Punisher. I really think he does. He just looks like Frank Castle when I see him. I really love how much he trained, with the military to be on point for this movie. I loved the amount of of punishing that he gets to do in a much less silly way. I mean, yes, it's silly and it's cartoon violence, but we are talking about the Thomas Jane one. Is like he's messing with people,
mind games with people, and
he's doing mind games, and this one doesn't have time for that, right? And in that sense, I think this one is closer to the Jon Bernthal one, which is like, nah, man, if you messed up, I'm gonna kill you, like, so that you can't come back,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's even why Microchip gets him to come back, because he was pretty sure Rosati was dead. Like, you're not supposed to survive getting mixed up in the glass factory machine. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty crazy. And so, like, he's like, all right, yeah, I got to go put one more bullet in this guy. I felt hints of Jon Bernthal's character in here. And I've read that originally the director did not want Ray Stevenson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Feige's like, dude, go watch Rome, because that's what this guy was famously in before. He was in HBO's Rome, which is a fantastic show if you've never seen it. It's an awesome show. The showrunner from that would go on to run Gotham.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But this guy plays one of the two. Like, the best way I can put Rome is they create a story that's taking you through Roman history, through the different Caesars. But they create two Forrest Gump type characters that manage to kind of end up being at all the
For All Mankind,
moments.
but for Rome.
No, because For All Mankind is not historically accurate. Yeah, it's like Forrest Gump, but for Rome. But not comedy. It's not, it's not a comedy. It's not played for laughs. But he plays. But Ray Stevenson played Titus Pullo in that. And I remember watching the first episode of Rome and being like, I don't know who this man is. I've never seen him before in my life, and I freaking love him. And I have loved this guy ever since then. So that was another reason I went to go see Punisher Warzone at the time, because I saw the potential in Ray Stevenson. And when I saw Warzone the first time, after being a big fan of Rome, I was like, they did not use this guy to his potential. And whatever, I don't know, I don't know the goings on behind the scenes of that movie. I just know that, like, this time around watching it, I was way more forgiving, and he's pretty good, man. It's just I can pinpoint that Dominic West and what is his name? Something Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Hutchinson. They just
it's almost as if like their the zaniness around the Punisher didn't match the tone of the Punisher.
Yes, it did not. Yeah. Another way to put it is they shot the bed. No, it's true though. Like you know who else is a really real character is Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
I like that guy. He shows up like he's like Wayne. Microchip's like, hey, I brought this guy in. He knows the
Mm-hmm.
he knows the turf. He was an ex-gang member, and Punisher's being a little judgy of this guy. You know, he's a little bit like, I don't know, man.
A little racist Punisher.
It's a little bit, but then by the end of that character's arc, he's now like, yeah, man, if I see you anywhere near hell, I'm kicking your ass out. You know, and like I think that's a really cool line for the Punisher to say. Like that's his way of saying, look, I know I'm gonna be in hell, but you are a fucking good person, you know. And I think that's cool. Like I think that's a if the Punisher ever said that to me, I'd be like, that's a pretty cool way to go out. I'm just saying, like that's pretty baller. He had some cool lines, and I think yeah, Carlos' character was really cool. I liked Julie Benz as the wife. I can't remember. Was it Donatelli, the agent? I think that died. Yeah. I think she's Angela. She's really great. I even like Detective Soap. It's kind of funny, like
I did like the little nuggets of story that you get with him because he's on the Punisher Task Force, and then
he is the Punisher Task Force.
He is the Punisher Task Force, but then you get little nuggets and like, okay, he's dropping hints to the Punisher from the inside.
Yeah,
and it makes you start weaving like the fantastical and how the Punisher is just everywhere at all times.
How he exists everywhere, and Microchip helps you see how he's supplied. Right, like Microchip just goes to like random like gun shows and picks up whatever he can find for this guy. Like he's like, that's what I really like about this movie is he's got a network of people. It's Team Punisher, right? Like this doesn't work. It's not sustainable for just one man to do it forever, right? And I almost think that's what the first the Thomas Jane movie was trying to show us is he needs a team, right? Like and that those funny characters at the apartment were trying to be his team for him. They're trying to provide emotional support. You know, they do emotional team. They help him. They do help him survive, right? And so like I think that if this was to be a sequel, it's a logical progression that the Punisher, after 4 years of doing this, you see there's no way he does this by himself, you know, and I think that's kind of cool. Did Wayne Knight play it as cool as he could have? I don't know. He fell a little flat for me. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like does Wayne Knight get top billing in this movie?
No, Ray Stevenson was top billing, dude. He's cool. Like, you don't understand. Like Ray Stevenson and Dominic West were at the time from what was considered to be two of the greatest HBO shows on TV. Dominic West is from The Wire, and The Wire is considered to be one of the greatest shows of all time. Yeah, and he's like the star of that show.
Rome sounds so familiar, but I just don't have any.
Rome is a pretty badass show. Was
it on around the same time as Spartacus?
I think it started before Spartacus, but yeah. I mean, you got to remember this was after 300, right? Which also Dominic West was in. Yeah. Dominic West was in 300. So, like, you know, the Roman Empire. 300? He's the guy that sleeps with the wife while. Yeah, you got it. You remember? Yeah. He's there. I'm saying good actors, really good actors. And this movie had a lot going for it. And I think it just ultimately, the way the pieces were assembled, it's a little off. And I feel bad for it because it really does have the bones of a really good Punisher story. And so, but like you said, what we got that came out of this is awesome, right? Because now we have a John Bernthal, and I don't want to see another Punisher again until that man is dead. Like that's just it, right? Like that's
yeah, until he gets destroyed by Doctor Doom or Kang or whatever. Like
until he gets murdered and sent to Mephisto, and then has to come back as the new Ghost Rider. That's it. Yeah. But no, I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Like, it was what? Did you have any other like awesome moments in this movie that we didn't cover? Like, especially violence wise.
It does take me back to a time, and we kind of got there with Wolverine and Deadpool, but in the Marvel verse, right, that violence just is not a thing that exists. It's been going on for DC for a minute. DC's very comfortable with that type of violence with their characters, with their big characters, and Marvel not so much. So it was kind of neat. It's neat to see the Punisher do Punisher things and have it be an effect, right? Same way being Deadpool and Wolverine or Logan, right? Man, if Wolverine punched a guy in real life, he would probably fuck him up. And so to start seeing those realities,
he would probably punch a hole in the guy's face.
Yeah. And it seems like now with Marvel, we're opening up that space to continue to do some more of that. So I'm ready. Like, who, if you had to pick, like, who would be like the next character you'd want to see, like, in an R-rated setting?
Ghost Rider.
I
just love me some Ghost Rider, and I just want him back. Like, I want him back because, like, I think that first Ghost Rider movie. I mean, we watched that a few months ago, right? And I was like, hey, it's kind of better than I remember it being, you know. But I really like that second one a lot. Like, I think that movie he looks so good, and I think it's just a super cool, interesting story. And yeah, for me, like, I don't know if you know that, like, this was the Punisher Warzone was the first movie to have the Marvel Knights logo.
Yeah,
and then they never used it again.
Well, they used it for the second Ghost Rider.
Oh, you're right. It was for the second Ghost Rider as well. Yeah. But yeah, that was my point. Is like there's a lot of interesting Marvel Knights characters, and I think they all can exist.
But that was like their adult label, right? Or
yeah, exactly. And to be fair, Moon Knight exists as a Marvel Knights character as well. And and we talked about this when we were watching Moon Knight. I want to see I could see the whole show over again from the other guy's perspective that we never got to see, right? Because we always got to see the violence afterwards. Right? We never were allowed to see the horrible violence that Moon Knight committed on people. And that was a clever way of getting around the rated R-ness of Moon Knight, right? So he could still very much exist in that world, and fans would go nuts if they saw a rated R Moon Knight for sure. It just might not be the direction Oscar Isaac and the people want to take that story, but
do it, cowards.
It's heavily implied, right? Like, he did some horrible things to a lot of people in that show. We just never got to see him do it necessarily. So yeah, those are my top two for sure. Let's see Moon Knight and Ghost Rider just wreck people. Also, the Hulk could be pretty cool in a rated R story. That would be pretty fun.
I mean, the Marvel Zombies show, that's
rated R. Yeah.
So
when is that one? Is that in February?
Don't know.
No, Daredevil's in February. Sorry. Spider-Man is in January. Daredevil's in February. Marvel Zombies is later in the summer, I think. Yeah. Anyways, I had a blast watching Warzone. I don't know. What do you give? Thumbs up or thumbs down on this one?
It's a thumbs up. You know, it's a cleaning movie. If I'm watching, if I got to do some chores, might put on the Punisher Warzone.
I actually really enjoyed just leaving it on and like I watched it.
It's a good background movie.
It is an excellent background movie. Yeah. Yes. Very colorful movie too, right? Like they just always have primary colors in the background. Just they were trying to comic book it up, So yeah, it just I think what it is at the end of the day, Warzone reminds me of Venom. When we saw Venom, we're like, this movie would have killed in 1998 or something like that. You know what I mean? Right? Like if
Yeah.
people saw Venom for the first time back then, and I think that's the problem with Warzone, is it feels like it's of a different time. It feels like the director was trying to do a Blade movie or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If
too behind on the old stuff, but too ahead on some of the new stuff, maybe.
yeah, it yeah, it wasn't its time. It's 2008 was just not the right time for that movie. And
Do you think we'll ever get another Punisher movie?
Yeah, I'll say we will. But I think if we do, it probably is going to need to be a story that exists in the Marvel universe where like other characters can show up,
More
what I mean?
fantastical.
Like, not necessarily fantastical, but like other people can show up and be like, Frank, you can't do this. Like this is, you know what I mean? And then like it kind of like the rooftop scene we got of him in Daredevil. Like it has to, like he can have his own story for sure, but it if it's gonna, like we've already seen like several Punisher stories take place in their own universe. I want a movie that continues to live in the same space as Daredevil and Spider-Man and Kingpin and stuff like, like that's what I want to see. Like I don't like, or even like if you want to go crazy, like Civil War, like the movie was interesting because the comic in Civil War, the Punisher is a really, really dark part of that story. Where like, so I think the Thunderbolts were rebranded and restarted and they worked for Iron Man during that Civil War story. And then the Punisher somehow, like much to the objection of Captain America, like Captain America did not want Punisher's help. And Punisher was very hurt by that because he's like, bro, I idolize you. I grew up worshiping you as a kid. Like this is, I can't believe I get to work with you. And he's like, are you guys serious? Are you guys serious? You want this guy? And so they send him out. Dude comes back with like heads of people from the Thunderbolts. Like he's just murdering people. And Captain America's like, you're gone. You can't. No, this is not how we're playing this game. You gotta go. Like, and then the circumstances that happen after Captain America is, there's he ends up dying in the comics. Captain America dies as a result of Civil War. And the Punisher gets wild after that because he feels so hurt by that he ends up adopting a Captain America costume and going out and punishing people wearing a Captain America suit. And it's weird, but it's cool. And so like, I'm just saying that stuff can only exist in a universe where the Marvel characters exist. And so you can do a lot of interesting things with a Punisher that lives in that world. You know what I mean? So, and they do all the time in the comics. So I just kind of want to see some of that stuff translate into the shows or the movies and stuff like that. Yeah. It all is like, ooh, or ooh, I don't know about that. Like it's never happy. It's never happy, right? Like that's kind of the point of the characters. It gets gross, but it's all in the name of vengeance or punishment, so those characters gotta exist. They gotta exist. So there you go.
Well, but those characters gotta exist. We have to exist, and we have to enjoy this lovely Thanksgiving.
Franksgiving. Now we're gonna go watch all of the episodes of Daredevil that have the Punisher in it.
All 2 seasons and 3 seasons, I guess. 4 seasons.
Three.
What are we doing next week?
We can revisit that one later because I don't remember if we had a plan for that, but I know we're holding space, guys. We're holding space for the beginning of Creature Commandos in 2 weeks, I think. So
and
that was a bad use of holding space.
There's a Craven. Speaking of
Craven
R-rated
is
Marvel.
Craven is in 3 weeks. Yes. So we'll have something to talk about next week for sure. I'll talk to you after the show on that one. I want to let us make sure that whatever it is, it's actually available for us to watch right now. But yeah, we will have Craven the Hunter and Creature Commandos and What If all for December. So we're packed. We're packed with content in December. So let us just go enjoy our big meals today, and everybody, give thanks in the comments for something that you're thankful for. I am thankful for this show. I can't believe we've been doing this for as many years as we have. It's funny. It's weird.
We're going on 5.
I mean, honestly, like, whenever I talk to my family, they always ask how you are. I think I talk to you more than anybody else in the family probably does, and vice versa. So, hey, at least it's we found a way to connect and do something cool, and I am thankful for that. So I will always cherish the time we do this show, even when nobody's watching us. It's still funny.
We do it for you. We do it for you, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought we do it for us, but as a byproduct, we do it for them too. Yeah.
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 We do it for everyone.
All right. Fair enough. Well, what has been your favorite thing that we've talked about this entire year so far, though?
Oh, this entire year. Oh, man. Favorite thing. I really did enjoy going through all the X-Men. And
that was pretty fun
because there was a ton of those. But those movies, came out. Yeah, I guess they're technically still coming out. But throughout my childhood, right? Mm-hmm. I grew up with those movies literally every 2 years there'd be a new X-Men movie. So it was cool to just go back and enjoy them for what they were.
Yeah.
Appreciate the good, seeing what they're working with. Obviously, the Hollywood isms had a major effect on what those movies turned out to be.
Yeah.
But you can't knock the attempt,
I asked, it was a trick question for me because I knew the answer beforehand. So my thing is, like, like I said, we found a way to connect and stuff, and I think that's cool. But I know that one of your weak spots is you're not a big fan of animation. And so I think I had such a blast talking about X-Men 97 this year because you seemed to genuinely enjoy that show.
It was a great show. It was well written. It did not treat its audience like kids watching TV on Saturday night, and that's not to dismiss the or Saturday morning, and that's to dismiss the original show. Yeah. But it grew up with everyone, and they talked about some serious shit in that show. And from talking with you and our other guests throughout the years, that's the whole point of the X-Men, is to bring up some of these difficult conversations we have around how we treat certain people in our society, and to have a show do that and execute it at such a high level is super refreshing.
And be animated and still be digestible for people who don't like animation. I think that's what's crazy about it.
Animation did grow on me, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. You were hating that animation before that show
looked
started.
A little janky. The frame rate wasn't right or something.
But the story won you over, and I think that was a really fun moment for me. Other two fun moments, just back up. It was Agatha, because I got to eat crow.
Yeah, on that. Did you want to watch that show at all?
But dude, hey, I ate it though. I ate the crow right away. Right, I was like, okay, I'm eating crow. This show is freaking awesome. I wasn't sold completely on the first 2 episodes, but after that, it was amazing. And so, yeah, I'm just thankful for all the great content that we got to nerd out on this year, and I'm excited for next year. I think it's gonna be cool. But all right, that's it. That's my little heartwarming bit. I'm gonna let you go do your Thanksgiving now.
All right, let's all wrap it up, everybody. We'll see you next week. And with that, true believers, enough said.